Hey, it's Ben Wise at ZOAR Fitness, and this is the name game. Workout number 40 is 2 rounds for time with a 10-minute cap. We got 30 overhead squats, 135, 95 for males and females respectively, 15 bar muscle ups, back to 30 overhead squats, and then 15 ring muscle ups. So let's get into movement standards. First of all, the overhead squat. Hip crease is going below the top of the knee. Pretty simple, and you got to keep the bar locked out. In terms of locked out, the standard that's typically used for that is you got to keep the bar above the crown of your head. So if it comes down below that, it's okay if you got a little bend in your arms or whatever, if that's really necessary, which hopefully it's not, because it's inefficient, but it's acceptable from a standards point of view. Biggest thing for the overhead squat is depth. It's always the case. Bar muscle up, pretty simple. You go from hanging underneath the bar up over top of the bar. You cannot do like a back roll over thing or anything like that. You got to keep hold of the bar the entire time as well. And then you can't let go of the bar when you're on top. And obviously you have to lock out the entire way at the top of the rep as well. And make sure that you're in front of the plane of the bar. All things that we should know, but I'll go over them anyway. And then for the ring muscle up, same thing, dead hang from underneath the rep. You have to go through some sort of a dip as you transition up over top of the rings, and then you have to get a full lockout of the elbow in line with the rings. And this is one where people mess it up a lot, where they'll start to press and they'll push away back behind the rings, and when they'll lock out, but their lockout is when they're maybe 4 or 6 inches behind the rings with their shoulder relative where the rings are at. You need to make sure you're vertical to make sure that you're actually meeting the standard. So the ring muscle up standard, and in terms of lockout, I think is an important one, and overhead squat depth is an important one. Okay, let's get into some of the questions that I'm sure a lot of people have. Like, first of all, I don't have muscle ups. What should I be doing here? If you don't have muscle ups, or you don't have consistent muscle ups where you don't have maybe more than like a few singles, I would definitely scale this workout. The way I want you to scale it is maybe a little bit different. I want you doing 10 chest to bar and 10 ring dips for either set of those muscle ups, whether it was bar or ring. So when you see 15 muscle ups, regardless if you see bar or ring, what you're gonna be doing is 10 chest to bar, 10 strict ring dip. So again, it'll be 30, 10 strict chest to bar, 10 strict ring dip, 30 overhead squats, 10 chest to bar, 10 ring dip. So that's how you'll go through your workout. And then also, for just about everyone who does this workout, I don't anticipate anyone actually finishing it. It's basically a 10-minute AMRAP. Again, the Open writes this a lot. Like, for example, 18.3 was a workout where it had 800 double unders and all these other movements between, and it had a 14-minute time cap, and there was, I think, a few people in the world who could finish it, but realistically for most people it was a 14-minute AMRAP, and that's sort of the case here. You're basically going through for 10 minutes and doing as many as you can. Hopefully maybe someone surprises me and they can do all 2 rounds in 10 minutes. That'd be awesome. Okay, let's get into setup. First of all, I mean, it's really about where your bar and your rings are at, and then you're just gonna set your bar somewhere in the middle there. And realistically, if this is even an open workout or a qualifier test or something, that's exactly what you're gonna do, because you can't just like move all that stuff around. If you're someone who does have maybe a big rig and there's a bunch of different options, you can pick a rig that is closer to the rings in proximity. Great, but a lot of people don't have that luxury. It's kind of like wherever the stuff is, it is. And then make sure you put your bar far enough away that if you do slip off a bar muscle up or something and you lose your grip, that you're not gonna land on the barbell and break your back, okay? Again, CrossFit's probably gonna continue to standardize this where they put down 2 lines and say, hey, you have to be X feet from the bar between that and your barbell. Some of the thoughts, I think whether you're scaling this or actually doing it RX, regardless, I think it's very important that you have a break strategy going into this workout. Especially, I think, you know, for both movements, to be honest, because their chunks so big, you need to be smart about how you're attacking the overhead squats, because if you're death gripping that overhead squat and you're just, you know, holding that lockout the entire time, your press in your ring dip or the top of your ring muscle up is gonna get really sketchy, and potentially your grip's gonna get fried for the bar muscle up. So again, these are things that we need to think about. You need to manage your fatigue across what's probably gonna be a 10-minute time domain. So when you're thinking about it in that way, maybe it's 12, 10, 8, or 3 sets of 10, for example, on the overhead squat. Basically something where you can manage it, where you know you can pick it up, you can, drop for a few seconds, take a few clearing breaths, and pick it back up again. Basically, the goal here is going to be to rest less and be able to get a bigger work to rest ratio. And how you're going to have basically the best work to rest ratio is if you take slightly smaller breaks. Now, that being said, with the overhead squat in particular, each time you break, you're going to have to snatch the bar up, or you could squat snatch the first rep, which is perfectly fine, by the way, but you still have to make sure that you're pulling from the ground each time to actually, because you're not allowed to use a rack. So understanding that, okay, with that, it basically is a buy-in each time I drop the bar to pick it back up. But that being said, I think it's pretty straightforward that you're gonna maybe do 3 to 5, maybe 2 if you're a higher level athlete and you're pretty strong, sets of overhead squats, and then being sort of methodical and chipping away at the muscle ups or your scale the chest to bar and ring dips. Regardless, thinking about realistically, this is my rep max. I'm gonna do anywhere from maybe 8 to 20% of that based on how big my rep max is. If I have a really big rep max, I might do like 8%. If I have a smaller rep max, I might be doing 20%. Obviously, if you have like triples, you're gonna have to at least do a third of that in terms of like a 3 rep max for your muscle ups. Anyway, that's the big thing that I would think about in this workout is, what does my break strategy need to be based on my current capacities in these 2 movements or in these 3 movements if you're scaling, and really thinking about how can I maximize my work to rest ratio by resting less. And that's sort of the name of the game in this workout. So if you're someone who's watching on YouTube and you are not signed up for the protocol yet, make sure you do that. Get a free week. Go to zoarfitness.com/pro-trial. You can get a 7-day free trial there. And for everybody else, best of luck on Mmhmm.